Welcome to the Supporting Young Hearts, the Heart to Heart Series 1 bonus episode, where we recap our 6 episodes and the main messages of our wonderful guests so far. The Heart Foundation acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of country throughout Australia and their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respect to them and their cultures and elders past, present and future. I'm your host, Carlye Weiner, a clinical psychologist working alongside the Heart Foundation with a special interest in young people and chronic health conditions. We'll be talking about important information about the common experiences of mental health and living with a cardiac condition, as well as some strategies to try at home. A reminder of some of the resources out there for further information or more support. heartfoundation.org.au, our helpline 131112, the Australian Centre for Heart Health's Wellbeing Program, or visit your GP or usual medical professional if you have any health concerns. Throughout the series, we spoke about just how common it is to experience mental health symptoms alongside any heart condition, whether you're young, old, born with it, or have had a heart event as a young adult. Our mission was to start a conversation, reduce the stigma, and support people with how to live their best life. Caitlin put this brilliantly for us.
Everyone should acknowledge how they feel and acknowledge that it's okay to feel that way, and that once you do acknowledge the way that you feel, then you can sort of progress from that and find out how you can move past it. For me, that was really important, was thinking, okay, how am I actually feeling, and acknowledging both mentally and physically what I was going through, and then finding ways to deal with that was really important for me.
First, we'll recap on anxiety and heart conditions, something that nearly half of people experience after going through a heart event. This can look like physical symptoms that mimic or occur alongside cardiac symptoms, including a fast heartbeat, sweatiness, shortness of breath, emotions like worries, fear or dread, tightness in your muscles, dizziness, nausea or weakness in the limbs. The important thing here is that not everybody experiences anxiety the same way, and the key message is to get to know your body and what are some common experiences of anxiety for you, as well as when it doesn't feel right and when it might need checking out. Nicola shared a few of her experiences with us.
I take each day as it comes now. The fear is there though, in regards to having another event, because not only did I have my heart attack, but a year and a half later I had a restenosis of the same artery. So my stents reblocked 95%.
Wow.
And that's me listening to my body and telling my cardiologist that these are the things that I'm feeling, there's something wrong. And I want to let people know, like, listen to your body. If there's something not right, seek help, like go get it sorted. Because in the end, yeah, there was something wrong. I just try to focus on my breathing. I just try and tell myself, you're going to be okay. And if you're not, your kids are there and they know how to call 000.
Okay.
So my husband's pretty practical and he eases my panic.
Here's Dr. Lisa Morton speaking about her pacemaker and how difficult it can be to tell a heart issue apart from anxiety.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most difficult things when you're living with a lifelong condition that can sort of flare up and down, and particularly with a cardiac condition, because we know in terms of panic and anxiety, one of the symptoms is palpitations and your kind of heart racing. And then obviously one of the main symptoms of there being something wrong for cardiac patients is palpitations. And I found that particularly difficult because I'm 100% dependent on a cardiac pacemaker. And when my pacemaker is broken, I miss beats. But then if I'm very stressed, I get extra beats and it feels exactly the same. So it is very difficult, and it can lead to what we call health anxiety, where we become very focused on our bodily symptoms.
I had to start taking medication. That was one big, huge thing. I'd be at the kitchen bench thinking, okay, I'm going to dispense my medication for the week. And then I'd just break down in tears, and then hubby would have to come over and take over and do it for me. That was one of the things. I think it's the notion that heart disease is an older person's disease, and how could I get how did I have a heart attack? Do you know what I mean? I've got no risk factors. I don't smoke. I try to be fit and healthy, eat healthy. I used to focus on the why at the beginning. Like I was looking things up. I was seeking help through the Heart Foundation, Baker's Institute, and there's another one in Sydney, which I'm doing a study for. So I was really deep in thought, trying to understand my condition and why and how. But you know what? I'm not focused on that anymore. I feel like I need to start moving forward and just focus on the positive now.
We heard from some inspiring women speaking about their anxiety, Sammy and Caitlin, who shared how to live their best life and not let their heart event hold them back. Both Sammy and Caitlin shared their stories and shared a range of strategies, including asking for support from friends and family, seeing a psychologist, practicing mindfulness and other coping strategies, as well as a little bit of conscious denial, which can be helpful in the short term if it all feels a bit much. Here's Sammy.
It really was not necessarily about what I saw as the physical rehab, but that real emotional rehab, because I too am quite an anxious person. I mean, I wonder if that's one of the character traits of having these sort of things, you know, happening in your life. Like, I am quite an anxious person. I'm someone that loves watching the same movie over and over again because I know what's going to happen. Having a support network of people, even when they're strangers, that you can just relate to, and you know that, and that you're not trying to make someone understand, and the questions that you get asked aren't insensitive, they're really genuine.
All of our guests spoke about the importance of acknowledging whatever was going on with their mental health as an important part of their overall journey. Every single guest mentioned how vital it was to have supports and a community around them.
Don't hold it in. You don't want to leave yourself alone thinking all these really bad thoughts. I think sometimes you want to try and talk to your family and your friends, but again, you don't want to scare them either with how you're really feeling deep inside. So definitely speak to others with heart conditions. It's been a huge help to me, and what they're going through is so similar, if not the same, as what I went through. Supporting young hearts has been a huge help. There's been lots of forums that I was lucky enough to attend the first one 6 weeks after my heart attack.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was pretty raw, and Mum came with me, but it was the best thing that I'd done. Reaching out.
I'd say reach out. Don't be scared to reach out. As I said, like, being a positive person, I wouldn't have reached out because I would have thought, I can tackle this. I'm a man, I can do it. But no. Deep down inside, you do start thinking that, you know, you need support. So you have to reach out. If you don't, you're not going to get it, and you're not going to get to where you need to be. It's something that you couldn't do 100% on your own. So you do need to reach out, and don't be scared to reach out, because we're here for you. So, you know, I'm happy to help anyone.
I read the stories and I'm just pretty much amazed by people, and I think, wow, you know, every time I think I hear of an amazing story, there's another amazing story. But there's also equally someone that's going through pain as well, or doubt, or just the emotions. So it brings me back to ground as well, because my event was 6 years ago, and it's quite easy to kind of forget in a way. But then being connected into that Facebook group and reading through the stories, it brings you back to reality that, hey, you know, this is real stuff. This is what you went through, Claude, and other people are going through that.
We learnt some information about depression, where we know nearly a quarter of people who have had a heart event can feel depressed. This looks like a low or flat mood, difficulties with energy or motivation or losing interest in things, withdrawing from others, thoughts of feeling guilty, like a burden or worthless, and maybe thoughts of what's the point, or even thoughts of hurting yourself. It's often associated with changes in sleeping patterns or appetite and impacts to your sex drive. The cardiac blues is something that 3 out of 4 patients experience. It can look a little bit like depression, but other features include shock or denial surrounding your cardiac diagnosis, tearfulness, being short-tempered or confused, having bad dreams, and worries about death or having another heart event. The good news is the cardiac blues usually resolves on its own, but it's important to keep track of these symptoms and mention them to your health professionals. You're not alone, and there is help and support out there. We heard from Marcus and Claude, who both experienced changes to their mood following their heart journey and felt the urge to take some space to reflect on their event, what it meant to their lives, and turn it into a drive for purpose.
Leading up to the surgery itself, I took some time out, went away by myself, and just had a real good realisation of life. Took a weekend away, went down the coast, and just sat there and just had a real good think of life and what it's like, and is, you know, how important it is to be living.
It's really important to know that there are others out there who are experiencing what you're experiencing. A lot of people say to us that despite having supportive friends and family, there's nothing quite like connecting with someone who's been there themselves. The Supporting Young Hearts Group, Consumer Advisory Group, and incredibly empathic Heart Foundation staff are here for you.
You know, I reflected back on my experience, and I had my wife and my family. They were there, they were supportive, but they didn't really understand. And so there was a bit of a gap there. And I thought, look, I would hate to have anyone going through that again. Or at least I can provide some support there for someone that's going through that situation that I went through.
Claude shared his message around connecting with others and how he started that conversation with Marcus.
Yeah, so I reached out to Claude after reading his story. I just felt so connected with him that what I was about to go through was exactly what he went through. And I don't know, just the energy and, yeah, it's just something told me to get in touch with him.
Yeah,
It
nice.
really did.
Yeah.
I'm not a person that asks for help. I'm not a person that goes to looking for support. I'm probably more of a person that gives out support.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, reading Claude, I just found such a great story.
And I remember I sent him, make sure you bring a shaver and a clean pair of clothes and all these kind of non-mental health stuff, because that was a good way of kind of breaking the barrier, I thought. I think the best way to approach it is just talk about the practicalities of it. And then as that relationship kind of goes a bit further, you can talk about the mental health. You know, if you do reach out, what's the worst can happen? You might actually be helped. You might actually improve. You know, we're here as a community. We're here as human beings. It's like a team sport. So you're not going to win a game by yourself. You're going to have to tag and have others to help you around who have gone through that. And you know, what's the worst? What's the worst can happen if you reach out? It might be a good outcome. So don't be afraid.
Also throughout our series, we spoke about how trauma is part of everyone's journey. Trauma is a life-threatening or life-shocking event that stops you in your tracks. Not everyone who experiences trauma goes on to develop post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, but it's important to be aware of the signs of this and intervene early. Around 20%, or 1 in 5, heart patients with a traumatic event go on to develop PTSD, compared to only around 4% in the general population. PTSD is the experience of reliving a life-threatening event in the form of visual memories or flashbacks, or body flashbacks, where it feels like that event is happening again in the here and now. It's associated with anxiety, fear, mood changes, including being jumpy, edgy, or hypervigilant about danger, and avoiding reminders, triggers, or memories of the event. When our bodies are in a constant state of distress, we can also have other bodily symptoms that make it hard for PTSD to look typical, which was what Jackie discovered years after her heart event.
My mental state was not great. It was hard. So I had a great support network, and I think this is the thing. People think, was no one looking after you? Like, my son's dad was the best dad, ever, well, still is. And I had great family around me, but nobody could understand. And my weight plummeted. I had started developing severe migraines that I was hospitalised. And I'd never had migraines in my life. Nobody mentioned to me or even suggested after I would tell them what had happened to me and why I was on all this medication. Nobody suggested to me, hey, you could have post-traumatic stress. This is why you've got constant migraines. This is why you're constantly living in fear. Nobody at all suggested that to me. It was purely people were just concerned about my heart.
Bianca shared how her trauma experience can also look a little different.
For me, I feel like I'm in the kind of thick of the trauma at the moment, and I'm in an unusual space because I am aware that I'm about to undergo this really big life-changing event, and I have a lot of time to think about it and process it, and a lot of people don't get that. But on the other hand, it just means more thinking and stewing on it and stressing over it and trying to comprehend what that's all going to mean. Another challenging thing was actually coming to terms with my diagnosis and understanding what that means for when I have kids, what it means for my relationship, what it means for my lifestyle as a young person. It's just something I didn't think I would have to experience.
Remember, recovery is possible, and many of our guests speak about how they coped and even how they felt grateful their event had happened.
One day you will die, but every single other day you won't. Like one day I will die, but I'm not dead right now. It still consumed me a little bit, and definitely with time, it stopped me thinking about it every second. Then it was every minute, then it was every hour, and then so forth till I would barely think about it once every couple of months now.
We had so many helpful tips on coping strategies and how people got through their tough times.
I have a sports psychologist that I speak with sometimes twice weekly, and we call it like my crap backpack. And all of a sudden, if you allow yourself to take some crap out of your backpack and put it to the side, and you kind of feel like there's a little bit less weight on your shoulders, what are the things that you can do to help take stuff out of your backpack to make your life a little bit easier, to ease the angst, that can be fueled by so many external sources, let alone internal sources. And like I said, some of those things for me have really been doing a bit of yoga, which I know sounds so cliche. Everyone says that they do yoga, but it's about finding some kind of movement that's for me and really makes me feel good.
I'm going to borrow from Sammy and ask our listeners, what's in your crap backpack? What can you pull out of your backpack for when you need it? It's good to have a range of different coping strategies to choose from, depending how you're feeling mentally and physically. For example, distraction is a great way to cope with strong, short-term feelings. Distraction can look like watching a movie, listening to music, or as Caitlin likes, as do I, colouring in. It's good to have something active in your crap backpack, and this could look like a walk, doing some gardening or even folding laundry, or doing some gentle stretches or a breathing exercise. This will help calm down some of the strong sensations in your body and teach it to relax a little and restore your nervous system to a more natural resting state. Some people find it helpful to do some reflection or problem solving. This could be an activity that helps you clear your head and allows you to think, or journaling or writing a list of things you can versus things you can't control to help centre your thoughts. Have a range of strategies on hand to choose from and practice them all regularly. Dr. Lisa Morton spoke of creating a personalised toolkit for yourself.
Well, I think first of all, it's really empowering to understand our bodies and to understand that it's normal when our bodies are faced with, significant threat for us to feel that and that's okay, and to look after ourselves. So, to do things that we need to do to feel safe. And that's one of the things, I think that's really important and that I'm interested in terms of Stephen Porges' kind of polybabel work. The counter to that sort of threat is to feel safe. So, what do we need? What makes us feel safer? And so things that might soothe us, and that might be, being with kind of soothing presence, so being with loved ones, it makes you feel comfortable. It might be having kind of a go-to box set of films that you watch that make you feel safer. Smells can be quite soothing. Tactile things as well, so a kind of nice soft blanket, wearing comfy clothes, going for a walk in nature, things like mindfulness, relaxation. There's certain music that can be kind of soothing as well. So kind of building your own kind of toolkit of what soothes you, what helps you, and that helps kind of bring you kind of back down again and bring those anxiety levels down, so that your body can then sort of switch back into a kind of feeling safe mode.
In addition to common mental health symptoms, we tackled some other big topics: coming to terms with your diagnosis, facing your own mortality, and sex. These are some of the most common topics we were asked to cover. We had our advocate queen Ange talking to us about how to digest information piece by piece and how important it was for her to ask all the questions. She spoke of how diagnosis, treatment, prognosis, life-changing news and emotional reactions are all a lot. And tackling them really is a journey.
So it's very overwhelming being diagnosed with a heart condition, especially as a young patient, because there's lots of terms and situations you're not used to. When I had my diagnosis, it was a shock and a surprise, but it's something that I felt I was well supported to take forward and understand. But I think the most important thing for me that I learned on this journey is being an advocate for your own health. And by that I mean asking questions, finding out the answers if people can't tell you, and sort of reaching out to others to sort of help you understand and navigate the new world that you're in.
Something that helped Ange feel more in control and empowered to manage her own health on her terms was to read information and find answers.
So I think being able to talk to your support team, talk to your doctors, your cardiologist about some of the questions you have, that's what's really helped me understand what I'm dealing with. I think that was the most challenging thing, is that no one could really tell me what my journey was going to look like. And so I thought, okay, how can I take control of that? So the main thing I could do was listen to my doctors and my specialists, take my medication, and ultimately put myself first, which was not something I was used to doing.
We also heard from Jeff, soon-to-be cardiologist, who faced a number of major heart events that made him reevaluate his life and change paths to be able to give back. He had a similar approach, and although he painted a picture of being awe-inspiringly driven, he had acknowledged there's ups and downs along the way. What would you say to people that maybe get stuck on their heart event or heart condition? They might be going on a loop with grief, this wasn't the life that I wanted for myself, or anger, why did my body do this to me? Did you ever face any of those emotions, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I certainly did, especially after the first one, and of course after the second and the third. I think in my situation, I've overcome that by applying that to my vocation every day. I feel like that makes me and has made me a better doctor than I otherwise would have been, and a better patient advocate than I otherwise would have been. And I think actually each day that you see patients who have these medical events much later in life, they kind of look back and go, God, I've got some regrets. I should have done this. I should have done that. I wish I had more time. And I think the benefit of being so young and having this happen is that life has flipped upside down for me, in that this has happened so young. I'm lucky that I can now look at life every single day, knowing it can be short, with firsthand lived experience, and approaching life in a way that when I get to 70 or 80, I can look back and go, yeah, I made every day a winner. I made every day a winner.
Most of our guests also speak of a genuine positivity, optimism and gratitude that comes with their reflections on what most would consider traumatic and a huge adversity.
I say this, and I say this really, passionately. And I never thought I would say this, but I am so glad that everything happened to me on July 16th, 2013. I think I wouldn't be living life to the fullest if that had not happened. I would just be plodding along, doing probably similar things to what I'm doing, but not with such a gush for life. Like, I am just a really sort of more vibrant, more happy, just a better version of myself. Had this not happened to me, I don't think I would be like this.
We've also heard about the sometimes quirky ways that people cope with some lingering strength issues, and this can be a helpful antidote to feeling embarrassed or frustrated over not being able to do something you once could. Here's Sammy again.
I've never really felt the same on that left-hand side. And we have this running joke, my strength and conditioning team and I, that my left leg, like I'm a skier, so my lower body's like quite big. I've got, a good butt, big legs, they're quite strong. And we call my left side Serena, because I sort of have this bit of disassociation with this side of my body from my paralysis. And it just takes a little more neurologically to get my left-hand side firing. And it's been interesting in this rehab to revisit these things and to be able to put back into place the strategies that I did 8 years ago in my first rehab.
Here's Jeff with an inspiring message on how he processes what's happened to him and is turning it into a powerful legacy.
I can feel it. Like it's stiff, the finish line, I'm not there yet. I've still got a few more hurdles to jump, but it's to be able to deal with patients who are like me and to be able to approach them in a slightly different way to the average, medical professional who hasn't had a lived experience is a genuine privilege, and it's an absolute calling. And I'm so thankful that A, I'm alive, B, I'm in this wonderful profession, and C, that I get to treat and chat with people who are as lucky as I am.
As a a change of pace now, we move to Alicia, whose confidence shone through in episode 4 on sex and intimacy, as she shared her initial struggles with connecting with a partner throughout her heart journey. Many patients are fearful or anxious about resuming sex or have concerns about sexual performance after a cardiac event as a result of the changes or reminders of your body. Here's Alicia speaking about a visual reminder of her heart condition.
The result of that is this huge bruise kind of just below your groin. And it was the biggest bruise I've ever seen, and it was my partner couldn't get past it. So then once the bruise kind of subsided, I was heading into surgery, and then it kind of made things a little bit difficult post-surgery because he just didn't want to hurt me. And as a result, we didn't really go near each other for a while, but all other types of intimacy kind of were off the table as well.
Another very common issue that impacts almost all heart patients is scars and body image, and how to feel strong and sexy throughout recovery. Caitlin shared with us how she initially felt about her scar and how she embraces it now.
Obviously, after open heart surgery, you have quite a big scar on the front of your chest. It's quite visible, and it takes a long time to heal. I think it started to fade after about maybe 8 months. So it looks pretty good now, but at the time, right after, it's very red, it's very visible, and it stays that way for a while. I was lucky that right after my heart surgery, it was sort of winter, so I covered it up a bit while it was in that first stage. But by second semester of uni, I was still making new friends, and I went to uni and it started to get warmer, so I started to wear tops that were a little bit lower, and you could see that sort of top area of the scar. And you would sort of see people look down at it and they want to ask you, and you can tell that they're sort of stumbling and tiptoeing around the question. And so that was a bit difficult because I sort of wish they would just come out and ask me about it instead of tiptoeing around it, because I'm quite open about it. At the end of the day, you have to embrace the scar. It's going to be there forever, and it's ultimately going to fade, but you know it's always there. And it is something that's just part of you.
She goes on to say,
when I'm at uni, I walk up a flight of stairs, I get quite breathless. And to other people, they might be thinking it's just a flight of stairs. Why is she so breathless? But obviously, I'm a bit self-conscious about that. And so I bring it up and I will tell someone about my heart surgery. And I think I have quite a positive relationship with my scar, because I just think of it as something that shows what I've been through and shows how strong I am and how brave I've been at such a young age. And I think it's actually something that's unique about me, and I actually really like my scar.
Physical changes in appearance, energy levels, mood, surgical scars, and body image concerns are so common and can interfere with sexual activity. For patients in a partnered relationship, open and honest communication with your partner about your concerns is an essential first step towards resuming intimacy. Understanding each other's sexual interests and concerns will allow you and your partner to develop a plan of action that meets both of your needs for intimacy, emotional connectedness, and physical affection.
When people think about intimacy, they think about sex and sex only, but it's more than that. So if sex is off the table after a procedure, any procedure, it could be you've just had a child, I encourage you to explore other forms of intimacy. Whether that's conversation, whether that's just being in each other's space more, holding hands, just taking little moments, because those small things will lead into bigger things.
Chantel Otten, our guest psychosexologist with lived experience of a heart condition, emphasised the importance of both emotional and physical connection through communication with your partner.
So I think the best thing to do is learn how to communicate. And if verbal communication is not your vibe, if you're struggling with it, then it's best to write a letter or an email to your partner, or even just record a voice message that you can play them. I'm a really big fan of going to your partner with a letter that you've written and either trying to read it to them or giving it to them and asking them to respond to your, statement. So a statement could be, I'm really struggling with my flare-up. It would be helpful if you looked after me in this this way. I'm not going to be able to provide this part of our relationship, but I can give you lots of kisses and hugs and tell you how much I love and care for you. I think the problem is that we often can feel really fearful and anxious about how we are negotiating, I guess, our energy levels and our sex drive in our body. And of course, if there are other conditions and I guess complications that come with our flare-up, there could be concerns around performance, there can be changes in appearance, there can be body image concerns, and some of us may have had surgery, which leads to scarring, etc. Communication is the foundation of a really healthy sex life, and you need to learn how to communicate. As hard as it is and as annoying as it is sometimes, you will be so surprised at how much your sex life changes if you say, you know what? I can't do this today, but I really can do this for you. A head scratchy is really great intimacy, and it doesn't mean that you have to get down and dirty.
A lot of people struggle with knowing where to start in terms of improving how they feel about their bodies after a heart event. Alicia found her confidence through exercise and feeling strong.
For me, it was about getting strong and feeling physically and emotionally well. So diet, exercise. I did lose weight after my surgery. And, you know, now I'm pretty much back up to my existing weight, but I weight lift on the regular. I run, I do yoga. And that mind-body connection is everything, especially with exercise. And that confidence that you get and that strength that you get, that moves into other aspects of your life that you wouldn't even think of when you're doing it. You just think, oh, I'll feel better about my body, or I'll be skinnier, so I'll be happy. But it's more than that. It's much more than that. So I would recommend for our listeners to do what makes them feel strong and what makes them feel confident, and, you know, kind of beast mode is what I call it generally.
She now proudly displays her scars throughout her dating experiences. It can be tough to start conversations with your health professional about sexual problems. However, your health professional understands sex is an important part of life and will be used to talking about it. Speaking with your health professional can help. They'll be able to talk with you about your concerns and identify strategies to improve your sexual health and well-being.
The conversations I've had with my health professionals are probably a little bit different than, everything. I probably didn't ask the questions around sex after surgery. I used a lot of online resources for that and asked people with conditions. The conversations I have with health professionals now are more around I've just frozen my eggs, for example, and whether I'm planning on having children and the impact it will have on my heart when I do decide to have children. Yeah.
How could you possibly raise that conversation?
I think, they give you a handbook and it says as soon as you climb 2 flights of stairs, then you can have sex. But a lot of people don't know how to ask that question. So then maybe it's the clinician that needs to say, so have you thought about sex, and have you thought about other types of intimacy? Because that will get the initial fear out of the patient and their partner. And I know that puts a lot of responsibility on the clinician, but that will open up the conversation for sure.
The American Heart Foundation has some tips on how to start the discussion with your health professional. This could include conversation starters such as, I read somewhere that my heart condition can get in the way of intimacy. I want to be intimate with my partner, but I'm worried that it will make my heart beat too fast. Or, my partner is concerned that sex is not safe for my heart.
So what I think is important to do is actually look at your sexual menu and look at the things that you can do, with penetration and orgasm being on the dessert menu, so at the end of the list, but maybe on the main course and the entrees you might have kissing, or you might have oral sex, or you might have toy play or finger play, or it might even just be an erotic massage, or it might even be an intimate head scratch or a back scratch. All of these things fall under the sexual menu, and they are all considered to be erotic acts. So make sure that you have a list of things that you can do. So whenever you are feeling like you're a bit low, when you don't have much energy, when you're struggling with your health, you can pick something off off the menu that you feel capable in working with, and that is your erotic act for the night or for the week or whatever you choose it to be.
We heard some important stories and messages about how to have tough conversations with others, as well as with employers, and how to have your needs heard.
The last 4 years I've learned to grab my lady balls and learn to speak up and be my biggest advocate, because so when I had my surgery 4 years ago, I knew straight away, as soon as I came to and out of ICU, you know your own body. To get the courage to do that, I actually was quite proud of myself, and I'd written, I would say, I wrote dot points in a notebook of things so I didn't go off track, and so I covered everything. And yeah, even though the meeting didn't go, or I didn't get an outcome that I wanted, I was very proud of myself, because that's a big step for me. I've never actually done anything like that before.
With my boss and stuff now, I've got the most amazing boss. She's so easy to talk to. She's so understanding. But yeah, there's definitely been times where I've been very hesitant to open up about my conditions. But yeah, I guess it's just that element of trust that I've really found difficult for. So yeah.
Sophie shared how she now approaches social connection.
I think for me it was a matter of, I had a lot of friends in the end that actually also had other conditions as well. So that kind of really helped. I felt like they really understood me for who I was. Yeah, a lot of my friends, they had other conditions themselves. So it was really, I think that kind of helped me and find comfort. But I don't know, I kind of just got to the point where I just be myself, and if they liked me, they liked me. If not, well, I can't change who I am. And yeah, that was up to kind of them. I kind of just got a real attitude, I guess, about it eventually, of I can't change the person I am. So yeah.
So I was very careful within those first 3 months that I wasn't putting myself in a situation where I could knock my sternum, which obviously meant no clubs, no bars, any of those sort of activities where someone would be in close contact with me and accidentally bump me. And so a lot of people at that age, my friends, didn't fully understand that, which is to be expected. I wouldn't necessarily expect them to understand the healing process of post-open heart surgery. However, it was sort of difficult to navigate that with my friendships, because there were definitely people who sort of made assumptions, because from the outside, after about a month, if you looked at me, you would probably think I looked fine. But obviously I know that the healing process is a lot longer than a month, and physically I didn't feel anywhere near normal after a month. And so those assumptions sort of put a strain on some of my friendships, because you were trying to take care of yourself and put your health first, but also make sure that you're not losing friends and you're still making the effort to see them. So that was a difficult time for me, just trying to stay social, but also take care of myself.
We hope you've enjoyed our first series of the Supporting Young Hearts, the Heart to Heart series. We encourage you to reach out, stay connected, and stay safe. Feel free to reach out to all of our guests and many other inspiring people via our Facebook group, HF Supporting Young Hearts, or see our show notes for how to find us. A special thank you to the Supporting Young Hearts Consumer Advisory Group members, the Facebook group, our wonderful guests and experts, as well as all the wonderful contributors behind the scenes to make the podcast possible. This podcast was funded by the Victorian Government's Let's Stay Connected grant.
The journey is never linear and no one's experiences are ever the same. But if we take a unified front, together we can actually conquer absolutely anything.
This podcast was produced in collaboration with Joy, Australia's Rainbow Community Media Organisation. For more information on Joy and our services, visit joy.org.au. That's joy.org.au.